Hi Mary! In this video, Pan and I are going to show you how to do the Kitchener stitch. The Kitchener stitch is a way of grafting two pieces of knitting together invisibly. It's really common in apparel items, so you'll often see it in mittens, in socks, in sweaters, and also it can be found in the girlfriend market bag. It's used to graft the two ends of the handle together. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to pretend that these are not two little tiny swatches of stockinette that I've got, but actually something like the ends of a mitten or a strap for the girlfriend market bag. So basically how the Kitchener stitch works is you use a tapestry needle and the end of your yarn, and you work the yarn through these loops that are still on your needles in such a way that replicates the knit stitch that you would do with a pair of knitting needles. It's really neat, and it can be a little bit complicated, but with practice it gets a lot easier. So I have this set up. I have my needles parallel, and as you can see, I still have these on the needle. They're not, I haven't bound them off. I have the wrong sides of the work facing together, so you can see that it's knit on both sides. And I have the same number of stitches on each needle. In this case, I have 10. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my working yarn, if the kitten will let me. You can have the ball when I'm done, sweetie. But I want to leave myself a pretty considerable tail, so I'm gonna get like 4 times the width of the project, just to make sure I'm not gonna run out of yarn, because that would be unfortunate. And then I'm just gonna cut. Have at it, baby. Okay, so before we get started on the Kitchener, you want to do a little establishing weaving just to get the two pieces attached to each other. So I'm going to thread my tapestry needle, and I'm going to hold up my work, and I'm going to insert this needle. Oh, by the way, sorry, I forgot to mention, you want the working yarn to be coming from the back needle. Okay, now I am going to insert the tapestry needle into the first loop on the front needle, and I'm going to insert my needle as if to purl. So I'm going from right to left. And next, I'm going to insert the tapestry needle into the first loop on the back needle as if to knit. So from left to right. And I don't want it to get caught on the knitting needle. I want it to go in between. Okay, so now that we're attached, we can get started on the Kitchener sequence. There are 4 steps to the Kitchener stitch, and I will show them to you. I'll break it down for you. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to insert the tapestry needle into the first loop on the front needle as if to knit. So from left to right, and you want to pull that needle. You want to pull the loop off the needle. Then you want to insert the tapestry needle as if to purl into the next stitch on the front needle. And you leave that stitch on your knitting needle. Next, you're going to insert the tapestry needle into the first loop on the back needle as if to purl. And you're going to pull that loop off your needle. Finally, you're going to insert the tapestry needle as if to knit into the next loop on the back needle and leave that stitch on. And then that's the end of the 4-step sequence to the Kitchener stitch, and give your yarn a little tug just to tighten up that tension. Okay, so now we start over again, and we're going to do this sequence until we get to the last 2 loops. So again, that sequence is: insert the needle as if to knit into the first loop on the front knitting needle, pull that stitch off, and then insert the needle as if to purl into the next stitch on the front needle. Now, insert the needle as if to purl into the first stitch on the back needle and pull that off. Sometimes the yarn can get a little tangled when you're doing this, so you just want to, make sure it doesn't get too tangled up. And then you're going to insert the needle from left to right as if to knit into the next stitch on the back needle. And that's the end of the 4-step sequence, so give it a little tug. So again, knit, off, purl, leave it on, purl, off, knit, leave it on, and give your work a tug. These are already starting to graft together. So we're getting closer to the end of our swatch. We're halfway done, and I'm finding that my loops are wanting to slide off the needles. So that is something to just be aware of. Make sure that it doesn't happen, because that would be a little sad. Not that you can't correct it. Knit, off, purl, leave it on, purl, off, knit, leave it on. And my yarn slid out of my needle. And I've attracted the attention of a kitten. If we get through this without her trying to run off with the swatch, it will be a miracle. Okay, so we only have 2 loops on each needle now, so this is going to be the last full sequence. So knit, off, purl into the last stitch on the front needle, purl into the first stitch on the back needle. I'm struggling to do this so that you can see it. There we go. Pull that up so it's not there. And you're going to pull that off. And you're going to knit into the last stitch on the back needle. Okay, so now we have these last 2, and you're going to insert as if to knit into the loop on the front needle, pull that off. You can let go of that knitting needle, and then insert your needle as if to purl into this last one. Pull it off, and you have just finished the Kitchener stitch. And as you can see, it has mimicked the knit stitch very well. You can hardly tell. My only current tell right now is that my tension for the Kitchener stitch is not quite even with the tension that I was using when I was knitting this. But what you can do is you can go through with your tapestry needle and you can just grab hold of the leg of the stitch, give it a little tug, and just go leg by leg and just give it a tug to even it up with your tension. And you can just do that all the way across, or you can just do it, it's a little loose over here, so I may want to tighten it over here a little bit, but these look pretty good. So I did this in the same color. I did the Kitchener stitch in the same color as the yarn that I was working with so that you could see how very invisible this stitch is, but I did a previous swatch where I did the Kitchener stitch in white yarn so that you would be able to see how it mimics the knit stitch. So you see those little V's that are just like all the other V's. And on the back, it just looks like a purl stitch. So that is how you do the Kitchener stitch. Thanks for watching.